Welcome to Tokyo Game Life, a Tokyo-based video game podcast focusing on Nintendo and gaming culture in Japan's capital. Your host Mono here to bring you a slice of gaming life from Tokyo. Returning guest Chris from KaniPro Games is here to chat about his newest indie title developed right here in Japan, Conjunctivitalizer. We chat about upending shooter conventions, publishing indie games on Steam, and how he got Toshiya Yamanaka of Sin and Punishment fame to make music for this game. In the feature, I take you inside the Katamari Damacy Collaboration Cafe happening right now in Shibuya. Let's jump into the games with Chris from KaniPro Games and Conjunctivitalizer. Today in the game section, we are looking at Conjunctivitalizer, a new vertical indie shoot-'em-up developed right here in Japan. Joining me to chat all about it is a special guest. So guest, please introduce yourself.
Hello, this is Chris, the person behind the game studio KaniPro. Not my first time on the Tokyo Game Life podcast. I think it's maybe the third or even fourth time or something. So thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much. I think it's even higher than fourth because you originally came on for the Tokyo Game Music Show. And then we talked about, that was a long time ago. And then we talked about your game, Violet Wisteria, and indie gaming in Japan. And we also talked about porting the game to Switch. So we've talked quite a lot about your previous game, but now we're here to talk about your brand new game. So give us the pitch. What is Conjunctivitalizer?
All right. Well, Conjunctivitalizer, as you said, is a 2D vertical shooter. For people who have played Violet Wisteria and realize that I enjoy making games with kind of peculiar, very precise game mechanics, you can guess that Conjunctivitalizer is not going to just be shoot and bomb. It does have a twist to the gameplay. You have a standard shot, you have a sword, and that's been influenced by a lot of other previous shooters. But the sword is not really used to attack enemies. The sword works on enemy bullets instead. So the bullets are color coordinated in Conjunctivitalizer. People probably hear that and think, oh no, again, it's not as complicated as Violet Wisteria. It's not that difficult. You have blue bullets and they can be reflected back with the sword. You hit them with the sword, they'll break apart, they'll damage enemies. Yellow bullets can be absorbed with the sword, and you have a sort of meter that charges up to use a bomb. It's a laser, but it's really a bomb. You collect 5 of those and then you can use a laser. There's red bullets. Can't do anything to those. You just have to avoid them like a regular shooter. So the whole trick is that there are not power-up items. They're not weapon items in Conjunctivitalizer. What happens is when you use the sword on those bullets, if you kill enemies with those reflected bullets, or if you kill enemies with the bomb that you've used for charging up the yellow bullets, enemies will leave behind point items only in those situations. So your score will increase much, much faster if you're really actively using the sword. You don't have to. You have a shot. But your weapon powers up with your score. There are predetermined sort of quotas, you could say, or milestones in the score that you'll power up at. And actively using the sword and trying to reflect bullets or absorb the yellow bullets to use the bomb is going to make your score shoot up way faster than if you're not using it. So it's kind of up to you. It's sort of up to the player. Do you want to just kind of play it safe and just shoot enemies down as quickly as possible? Or do you really want to try to skillfully use the sword and try to make those point items appear and get your score up quicker? But it's not completely optional because at a certain point, you're going to need to power up. So there's sort of a balance there to it. There's multiple difficulty levels you can choose. Makes the thresholds for leveling up lower if you're playing on the lower difficulty levels. But that is the mechanic of Conjunctivitalizer.
Before we really dig into the development of the game, I got to know, how did you come up with the name Conjunctivitalizer?
There's a story behind this.
Oh.
When I was growing up, I had a close friend for a few years in high school. I would spend a lot of time at his house. And his parents were there a lot. He had a stepfather who was around, who was a very kind of tired of life kind of person. Well, I ended up getting a brief summer job at the same place where they were working. It was a thrift store. So occasionally we would go to work together, actually. He had a saying sometimes. He would say, "That's very conjunctivital of you." I didn't realize it came from conjunctivitis.
Right.
At the But I don't know. To me, that was the funniest thing I'd ever heard at the time. And I would just die laughing every time he said it. So I just thought it was a very silly word. I thought it was just something that had a funny ring to it. So it became Conjunctivitalizer somehow or other.
Oh, okay. So quite a long history. And it is a very striking and SEO-friendly name. There's another shooter out there called Jamestown, and you got to type in Jamestown game or Jamestown shooter to find it. But I don't think anyone else has used the word Conjunctivitalizer before. So
I'm pretty sure.
You're safe on the SEO front.
There we go.
So I want to hear about the inspiration of the game. Why pivot to making a shoot 'em up after your first game, which was an action platformer?
Yeah, I don't want to do the same thing twice. I'm influenced by the game company Treasure, as you could probably realize, and their motto early on was no sequels. So, yeah, I wanted to do something totally different. I love retro games, I love 2D games, so I love platformers, and I also love shooters. So I wanted to try one. I had the idea, but of course, I just wanted to do something drastically different because there's just so many 2D shooters. There's just tens of thousands of them. And nowadays in particular, most of them are inspired by Cave.
Right.
I just feel like it's been done to death. How many more times can you make a game where you just shoot and squeeze through the 3mm space in a rain of bullets? I just want to do something really drastically different. And Violet Wisteria was... Obviously, it was a spiritual sequel to another game, and so it was very just kind of 80s Japanesque fantasy. It had a setting of very serious, I guess you could say. So I wanted to do something just completely ridiculous. I guess that's how it all came to be.
Yeah, I've played a gentleman's share of shooters, but I'm no expert on the genre. So what games would you say are the direct inspiration for Conjunctivitalizer?
Absorbing bullets comes from Radiant Silvergun, the sword, and the sword stuff also comes from Milestones shooters. Those are games like Chaos Field G, which stands for Radio Allergy, which I think is just getting a re-release on the Switch. Those are probably the biggest influences.
And the art is also really evocative. Who did you bring on board to do the artwork for the game, and why go for this look?
The person's name is, he goes by Hiro. On social media. His name is Watanabe Hiro. He's an artist. I don't know that he's a full-time artist, but the way that I kind of learned about him is he had made a doujin game called Namco Wonder Fight. Some people have probably seen that. It's a homage. It's a love letter to Namco's old IPs. It's a 2D fighting game that looks like it could have been an arcade fighting game from 1992. Or something like that. And it uses the Namco characters from their old games. So you've got Wonder Momo, the dude from Tower of Joraga, Bravo Man, a character from Splatterhouse, and it's a 2D fighting game. And that's really, really well done. So I kind of contacted him and asked him, like, oh, would you be interested in taking some work and trying to help me make the sprites for this game? And he was like, yeah, sure. As far as the style, I just told him it's just supposed to be ridiculous. The characters are just supposed to be out there. It's just supposed to be total madness. So he's probably taking some cues from Parodius, I would imagine. As usual, I sent him sketches, what my ideas for, and he fleshes them out. Sometimes he changes them around quite a bit in this case, and he's done an incredible job with it.
Yeah, the artwork is really good for somebody who is not a professional artist, or that's not their full-time job. You would have fooled me that I would not imagine this is just a hobby for this person to make art this good.
Wild. Yeah, I agree.
Now, because of the art style, is this game technically a cute-em-up like Fantasy Zone or Twinbee?
I guess, I've kind of referred to it as cute 'em up in parentheses recently. It was supposed to be a little more like madness than cute, but if it's cute, that's fine.
Now, in the game description on Steam, the game, quote, takes a mallet and smashes all expectations of what a traditional 2D shooter should be like. Well, what do you mean by this? How does it subvert traditional shooter conventions?
Because of the sword mechanic, it's the kind of like the main point of the game really isn't dodging bullets. It's sort of juggling when do I need to be cautious and shoot down enemies and when should I be aggressively using the sword and trying to get as many points as possible. But it really is just a very different way of thinking about staying alive and scoring. And in addition to that, stage one, which the demo is available as stage one, of course, stage one is a little vanilla. It really truly is just, some enemies appear, either reflect the bullets or shoot them down. From stage two and onward, really, there's a lot more kind of weird stuff going on in terms of things you can interact with in the environment or peculiar enemy behaviors, these kinds of things. It really does eventually do some things that I would dare say are unprecedented, that have never been done in a shooter. It's like, there's shooters with swords. There's shooters where you absorb bullets for a bomb like Radiant Silvergun. There's shooters where you reflect things back. They've never been put together in this way. So I think that is very different. But yeah, in terms of the really like smashed expectations into pieces kind of part, it kind of gets started a little bit later on. But there's some really, really different, really interesting stuff that starts to happen a bit later. So you can look forward to that.
Yeah, one of the gameplay features that really sticks out to me is that there are no weapon or power-up items you collect, and instead, your weapons are upgraded based on your score. Did you have this idea from the very start where you decided to focus on the score as opposed to collecting power-ups, or how did this idea come about?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, thought of the color-coded bullet thing first. Probably, yeah, that's a good question, man, because this started like over 2 years ago. So, yeah, I remember perfectly. It did kind of change a little bit. One thing I can tell you about the process of figuring out how all that worked, there was a PlayStation 1 shooter called Queen, which I had made a video about way back in the days when I was doing YouTube. It's a peculiar game, but you can absorb enemies. Like your character rides on a vacuum, basically. So you can absorb enemies and bullets, and you have sort of a meter that charges up. And then you can use a laser, which is like a bomb. But you're invincible during that time. But the trade-off is it's so easy when you do that. I think you don't get any points when you use the laser, which is kind of silly because it's not really a game about scoring. But initially, I was going to do a similar thing where when you use the laser, you don't get as many points as when you do the other things, just because it's kind of clears the screen, you're invincible. It seems kind of easy. But I realized the task of absorbing the yellow bullets to get the laser is quite a task. And it's like really satisfying when you get the charge and you use the laser and just smash everything.
Right.
So I figured that should be rewarded. So I realized, okay, you should get actually more points for using the laser. And then kind of just like, and then, okay. And then so getting points can then be like a central part of gameplay, not just bragging rights for your score, but then it can actually like benefit you in the game. I think that's probably how it all came to be.
Now, you talk about breaking the bullet hell mold in your description. So is this an anti-bullet hell game?
It's largely very an anti-bullet hell game. I mean, I think the majority of the shooting community really loves bullet hell games. So I don't want to necessarily say anti. It's just like I said, man, I just feel like it's just been done to death. Caves games came out and they were like so satisfying. You've got the tiny, tiny hitbox, and then you've got these just legions of bullets, and you're just squeezing through and weaving by. But it seems like after that happened, people just kind of decided, okay, this is the correct way to make a shooter, sort of like how Castlevania Symphony of the Night made people kind of start to act like this is the correct way to make a 2D action game, is now the Metroidvania, not the linear platformer. It's been 30 years since Donpachi 1 came out. I mean, let's do something different here. So, yeah, man, people who have listened to me on this podcast before probably realize I have some really dissonant views about video games in the gaming industry. And obviously, it doesn't help anything to just go around being negative. But yeah, man, I just feel like things do just kind of become samey after a while. We're doing the same thing again and again. And I just want to do something drastically different.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about, I guess, the state of the shmup genre these days. I often see some classic 2D shooter collection is coming to Switch, like Raiden or whatever, but I don't really know what people are playing in terms of the shmup scene. And for me, if I think back to the history of shmups, you've got your vertical shooters like Xevious, your horizontal ones like R-Type. And then in the 90s, you had a lot of run-and guns. I don't know if that technically counts, but I'll throw them in here.
Sure.
And then you have, yes, Toho Project and the cave-style bullet hell games. And I feel like that was the last big mix-up the genre got. So has the audience completely shifted to bullet hell style games, or is there more diversity in terms of the modern shooter genre?
The things that are being made right now, the things that kind of end up on my feed that I end up seeing do tend to be cave inspired. But no, man, I mean, there's tons of people still very actively playing all kinds of the older games as well. The arcade stuff, of course. I mean, things getting re-releases, and it's kind of different. I think there's like a remaster HD version of R-Type Delta coming out.
Yeah.
I think as far as people actively playing games, it's across the board. It's not only Cave. I mean, the only things that I've really kind of like looked at closely as far as gameplay is the games that are being made by that company that used to be Milestone. There's like maybe even just one guy who got the rights to the games, and now he makes new games under the name RS34. There's new Rattergy games and new Illville shooters. I don't know if you've seen any of those at all. They're like super, super niche.
Now, I got to talk about the music. Toshiya Yamanaka is doing the music for this game. He's mostly famous for his work on Star Cruiser, Bangai-O, and the original Sin and Punishment, which I'm sure a lot of listeners are familiar with. So how did he get on board with Conjunctivitalizer? Did you run into him at the Tokyo Game Music Show?
No, I didn't. I believe on our very first, when I first came on, it was about the Tokyo Game Music Show. I think you asked me who my favorite composers were. He was one of the people I said. He's one of my favorite musicians ever, man. So, yeah, I've been going to the Tokyo Game Music Show a number of times, and someone who's very active in the game music scene is a person named Yonao Keishi. He's been writing game music since the 90s, a lot of X68000 stuff. Asuka 100% was one of his well-known ones. He's a major dude. Some of the other famous ones, most of the games he's done music for stayed in Japan. He did Strania on the Xbox later on, but he's been around for ages. And in the last few years, he put together a music project called FM Vertex. So this was something that we call like an artist album, where you have an album with like one song provided by a range of different musicians. So these albums he just got together a whole bunch of game music composers and had them each write one song using FM, using frequency modulation. And there were a few of these. I think he made up to number 3. So Yamanaka Toshiya had provided a song for the first 2. Yamanaka Toshiya hasn't written a game soundtrack in more than 20 years since Dragon Drive on the GameCube. I think that was 2003. But he's had a song here and there on like some of these little projects. So I figured he was still around and could still write music. So I asked if he could put me in touch with Yamanaka Toshiya. I told him, hi, I'm Chris. I've been trying to make games independently recently. I love Yamanaka Toshiya's music. I see he's been working with you. Could you possibly pass my information to him? So he did, and that ended up working out. He's been writing the music.
Well, yeah, that's really amazing. I think a lot of people are really unaware that, a lot of the people who compose these classic soundtracks for video games, if they're not an in-house composer, they are kind of open to work. If you can reach them with a project that's interesting, they might do something for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you've got the money.
Yeah, that's also an important part of it. I don't think they're just doing it out of the goodness of their heart. So you have a demo out on Steam now. So what was that process like? Does preparing a demo really take a lot of the time away from the main project?
It can. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. These things, I mean, they take so much more time and work than anybody can possibly imagine.
Yeah.
It's wild making video games. The amount, just all the other things that have to be done. And it's not just making a video game. I mean, first of all, when you think about making a video game, you're thinking about making the gameplay.
Right.
The first thing that people realize when they go into making video games is that there's all these other little things that have to be done. The options, the controls, managing the save date and fonts, just these little things just pop up. And then on top of that, learning how Steam works. Because you don't just click on a button that says upload my project and upload your project in Steam. It's not how it works. It's just all these things. So yeah. And then in addition, like you kind of mentioned, preparing a demo version of your game, well, you need to make sure that people can't accidentally go to stage 2 or whatever and all these kinds of things. Yeah, it all takes time.
Have you gotten any feedback on the demo yet that made you want to adjust or change anything? Or is it like, okay, the concept is solid, so let's just build on that?
No, there's definitely going to be suggestions. I think the biggest one right now that I'm kind of juggling in my mind, and I had already thought about it before this. The thing about the sword, it's a very central part of the game. So let's imagine you're using the sword, right? So you hit a yellow bullet with the sword. You're going to absorb that into your bomb meter. Kind of a very important thing to consider is, are you going to stop the sword animation the moment you collide with one yellow bullet? Or can you absorb multiple yellow bullets with one swipe of the sword? So right now I've kind of got it such that when you get one, it just totally cancels the sword swipe. And I've thinking in the back of my mind kind of, well, maybe do I actually want to make it such that you go through the whole sword swipe, you pick up possibly one or maybe even more during that time, and then the animation stops for just a brief moment after you've completed that action. Someone who played it and mentions that, yeah, it would be better to let it actually go through a complete animation. So I'm probably just going to go ahead and mess around with that, maybe update it and see what people think of that. Yeah, I think it is relatively solid. I personally, I'm happy with it. Again, it's not a bullet hell shooter, so it's not like thousands and thousands of bullets on screen at once. But that's what I wanted to do.
Now, your last game, Violet Wisteria, it released on Steam first and then hit consoles later. Did you ever think about having a simultaneous release on PC and consoles for Conjunctivitalizer, or do you think hitting Steam first is the best method for an indie dev?
I have thought about it. I'm still not completely sure, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, a part of me feels like getting it to Steam first is best. But I don't know. To be totally honest, I don't see a huge difference in terms of getting news or making a splash or any of that kind of thing. You'd have to talk to a marketing expert, probably. Yeah, I mean, releasing on Steam first is easiest, but I'm definitely open to a simultaneous release also.
Now, the $1 million question: when is the game coming out?
The program for Conjunctivitalizer is really far along. I make some really quick sketches for like the enemy graphics and then just kind of program the game with those as placeholders, and then gradually the artists then draw the real graphics. So it's quite far along. As far as graphics go, stage 2 is like almost finished. So it is really far along, but the issue is that I had paid for most of that with the sales that I got from Violet Wisteria, which was not a lot, as you can imagine. And that money's long gone. So I'm going to have to figure out how to do the rest of this. The artists are working for a very, very reasonable price. But yeah, I have to figure that out. So it's going to take some time. I would love to release it in the middle of next year in a perfect world, but no guarantees there.
Yes, maybe try to get away from GTA 6's release date. But other than that, I think you'll be safe.
Right. Yeah.
Are you using Game Maker Studio for this game as well, like you did with Violet Wisteria?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Game Maker rules.
How's that process like now that it's your second game on that engine?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, right, doing the coding part is not difficult at all. Game Maker is just really, really forgiving. It's really easy to use. For my purposes, if you were making a tower defense strategy or something like that, you needed to program slightly more nuanced enemy behavior that follows pathways and avoids obstacles and those kinds of things. Obviously, that takes some time, but I can do more or less anything that I want to do in Game Maker.
Okay, final question. You receive a phone call, and of course, it's from Masahiro Sakurai, the creator of Super Smash Bros., and he wants Liza, the main character of the game, in Smash Bros. So what's her Smash moveset, what's her stage, and what song would you want to include?
Okay, so yeah, her stage is going to be, it's like, the ground is like a bunch of like gumballs. It's like candy. And then there's like all kinds of like desserts, like anthropomorphic desserts, like pudding and ice cream with faces on it, but they all look very angry. That's the stage.
Okay.
Yeah, her moveset, I guess it would probably be sword focused, but should probably toss something funny in there, right? Yeah, no, there's going to be a moveset where it parodies tropes of the gaming industry. where she screams like pet the dog, but instead of petting the dog, she like slices it in half with a chainsaw or something like that. There's another thing kind of going on in Conjunctivitalizer. There's conversations with the bosses, and they're all kind of like parodies of tropes in the gaming industry. The main boss of the first stage, the name is Pet the Dog. There's this trend in indie gaming where you're supposed to put a situation in your game where the character leans down and pets a dog. It has nothing to do with gameplay. It's something that became this trend. I just find those things silly.
What about the song?
Oh, man. Well, the entire soundtrack isn't finished yet. We've got like part of it, like a third of it. Yeah, I mean, right now, I guess. Yeah, well, it would probably be the song from Stage 4, which isn't in the demo. Yeah, it's a very, very high-powered song.
I wonder, I'm trying to think, does Yamanaka have a song in Smash Brothers already? Because there might be a Sin and Punishment song in there. So maybe this can be his second song in Smash Brothers. Will be something from Conjunctivitalizer. You never know. Right. It's never too early to think about what you need to include in Smash Brothers. So start thinking now.
Yes, crossovers.
But in the meantime, that was our look at Conjunctivitalizer, coming out hopefully in 2026. But the demo is available right now for free on Steam. So, Chris, where can people find you and where can people learn more about Conjunctivitalizer?
I'm on X, old Twitter. I'm KaniPro Games. So if you search KaniPro, usually it'll come up with a K. Conjunctivitalizer, the demo's on Steam. So you can check it out there. I've posted a video on YouTube on my other account, my Ultra Healthy Video Game Nerd account, playing through the demo and kind of explaining the gameplay system and showing you some strategies of how it's played. So you can see that if you're curious about how the game works. But yeah, the demo's on Steam as usual. You can leave reviews on demos now on Steam. It's something they've changed. So if you try it out, I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can just say, oh yeah, it was pretty cool. Or you can say, hey, I liked this. I thought this could be done better. I'm definitely open to feedback. So yeah, if you try it out, please let me know your thoughts. Anywhere is fine. Twitter, on the Conjunctivitalizer page on Steam, YouTube, whatever.
Great. And the links to everything are in the podcast description. So listeners, check it out. Put it on your wish list on Steam. It's easy, it's free, and it really helps a lot. Yeah. So Chris of KaniPro Games, thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much. I always appreciate it, man. It's a pleasure.
Today in the feature section, I'm taking you to the Katamari Damacy Collaboration Cafe happening right now in Shibuya until September 2nd. A lot of times in the feature section, if I ever cover a pop-up, I often end it with, and well, you can't go to it because it's over. That's the downside of bi-weekly episodes. But last episode's feature and this one is still happening right now in Shibuya Parco. So if you're an early bird listener, you can still check it out. And in general, Shibuya Parco is just really popping off right now. There's Nintendo Tokyo, Capcom Store Tokyo, Sega Store Tokyo, which is an upcoming episode, Pokemon Center Shibuya, an Earthbound pop-up shop, an Earthbound exhibit, which I talked about last episode, a Metal Gear pop-up shop, and of course, a Katamari Damacy Cafe. This summer is insanely hot, so it's okay to stay inside and play video games, or stay inside a department store and go shopping for video games. You don't need to see the sun right now. It'll still be there in October. The Katamari Cafe is on the 6th floor along with the other gaming stores I just mentioned, and is inside the Tokyo Parade Cafe and Goods Store. This is a rotating pop-up cafe that changes out their theme and is exclusively for collaborations. I don't think they have a default cafe. They go from one collaboration on to the next. I've seen a few places like this, like last year when I talked about the Dragon Quest Festival. The Dragon Quest Cafe at that festival was in one of these places that just host collab cafes. I guess you really got to plan ahead of time to make sure you have a year's worth of collabs ready to go. It would be bad to end the Katamari Cafe and be like, oh, what do we do next? Now, this cafe has been open ever since Shibuya Parco opened up 5 years ago, and I've passed by it many, many times, but this was the first time actually going in it. Honestly, none of the past collaborations have ever interested me until this new Katamari one. They're always almost for an anime or some mascot character I don't care about. The only time I've seen a gaming-related cafe here was for Love and Berry, Sega's dress-up game. But a few weeks ago, they announced they were hosting a Katamari Damacy Cafe, and the menu looked absolutely insane, so I decided to finally see what it's all about. The reservation process was actually pretty smooth. It's not like the Pokemon Cafe or the Kirby Cafe, where you gotta be online at midnight a month ahead of time to reserve a spot. Apparently, Pokemon is more popular than Katamari. They opened up reservations, I want to say maybe 2 weeks before the collab even started, and you buy online or even through the ticket buying service at a Lawson. I could easily nab the day and time I wanted. I didn't need to refresh, or the time didn't suddenly disappear while I was trying to make a reservation. They actually say they do have same-day seating if available, but you might as well get a reservation just in case. On the day, you got to line up outside the cafe, which is right across from Nintendo Tokyo. You can see into the store from the line. The outer wall of the cafe has a huge splash of colorful Katamari art, and the King of All Cosmos is painted onto the back wall. Some great photo ops, but you do need to stand right in the middle of a busy walkway to nab a pic, so it is kind of hard to actually take a photo. People will push you down to get to the Jumps comic store. But once you're inside, you order, you pay, and then you're seated. The cafe was pretty spacious, and there weren't that many people there, but it did fill up more by the time I left. The first thing you'll notice is that all the tables feature designs based on the prince's cousins. One table is one cousin. My wife and I sat at the Velvet and June tables. Velvet is purple and June is white with blue polka dots. And yes, I did have to look up their names. When actually playing the games, I like to play as Kuro if I can, who is the black and red cousin. The prince actually did have a table in the middle, but there was nothing really special about that one. But having each table be a different cousin is a really fun idea. And the cafe theme in general really does lean into the cousins. The walls were also splashed with Katamari art, and I believe a lot of the art is brand new for the collaboration. Like there is a chef version of the prince, and the cafe has a special logo as well. I'm sure some of the cousin art is repurposed, but it had what you wanted to see, a bunch of colorful nonsense splashed all across the walls. The back wall was the largest art area, and there was a mural reminiscent of the box art from the first game with the green hills and the blue sky. And yes, there were a few cows here as well. There was a lot of signatures from key Katamari folks. Even though he no longer works at Namco, yes, they did have Keita Takahashi's signature here, along with a drawing of the prince rolling up a Katamari. His wife, Asuka Sakai, who was the composer of the first game, also has her signature here as well, along with other composers like Yu Miyake. So it is good to see that somebody at Namco or the cafe was able to reach out to them. I have a pretty good collection of photos of signatures now. I've got Takahashi, Sakurai, Masuda, Tetsuya Nomura. That's just as good as having the actual signature, right? Now, around the walls were some other various LCD screens showing off gameplay from the series and some info on the cousins. Like an info card for each cousin. Now, you might be thinking, were they blaring Katamari music? The music was so faint that it was actually pretty hard to hear from where I was sitting. Which is a shame because the music is such a key element of the series. And if you go to a cafe, you want that soundtrack. I mean, the Kirby Cafe, the music is unmatched. They actually sell soundtracks for the Kirby Cafe. But here, you kind of have to strain to hear your favorite tracks. I guess since it's not closed off entirely from the other stores, like there's no door they shut, all the sound is kind of drowned out by people scurrying to Nintendo Tokyo and whatnot. So in terms of atmosphere, while the art was nice, it could have been a bit more immersive. Going back again to the Dragon Quest Cafe I visited last year, there were a ton of plushies and other decorations on the ceilings and the walls to make it feel like no matter where you looked, you were getting an eye full of Dragon Quest. And yes, the music was also very easy to listen to there as well. It does feel a bit cheaper and sparse compared to the Deku Cafe. Okay, I should probably talk about the actual food. Now, when you sit down, you get some collectible coasters and a paper with cutouts of some Katamari characters. The coasters are just cardboard, but they do look pretty cool. They have this glittery holographic look to them, and they feature original art of the Chef Prince and the other cousins. And of course, the King of All Cosmos. The paper cutout, again, hard to explain, but I guess you're supposed to cut out the characters and then put them somewhere, or I'm not really sure, but they give it to you. And it has custom art that you don't normally see. Like the Katamari was just a big meatball. Now the food items, they're pretty incredible looking, I can't lie. The most striking dish is easily the King Rainbow Cold Pasta, which is a rainbow-colored pasta with a little standee of the prince on it. And by standee, I mean like a very thin paper kind of pick, if you will. And by rainbow-colored, I mean rainbow-colored. They go full Roy G. Biv here. Now, this is the thing you want to take a picture of the most, but I didn't know if I would actually like it, so I went with something else. But fortunately, I did see 2 other people order it, so I did get to see it with my own eyes. And yeah, it looks like the picture on the menu. The people next to me seem to enjoy it, so maybe it doesn't taste as scary as it looks, but I wanted something a bit more palatable. And by that, I mean the King of All Cosmos dry curry. I don't even know how to describe this, but the basic premise is that it looks like his head, but it's curry. Now, if you've never seen the King of All Cosmos, you're going to need to Google it right now because words don't do him justice. But the curry is on a plate, and then there is a purple ring on top of it, like you would see in the game during transitions. The curry is a pink sauce with broccoli, tomatoes, carrots, and bright blue cheese, so it's easily the most colorful curry I've ever tasted. And the rice is shaped like his face, but there is a non-edible paper sheet on top of the rice to make it look like his face. So you got to peel that off, then you can go to town. And honestly, the curry was pretty good despite being bright pink. It was very flavorful and had a good mix of ingredients, but it wasn't that filling. Again, these cafes, you're going for the experience and the pictures, not to have the best meal of your life. My wife got the Big Prince Rolling Hamburger, which is a hamburger steak platter. It's on a hot plate, and the hamburger is really just a big meatball with the Katamari flag sticking in it and a little standee of the prince rolling it. Nowhere near as crazy visually as the King of All Cosmos curry or the rainbow pasta, but it did best capture what you actually do in the game. And inside the hamburger was a cooked egg, something I don't think I've ever seen before. My wife said it was pretty good, but she also didn't feel full either. And keep in mind, each main dish is about 2,000 yen, which can pretty much get you a good serving at any typical restaurant in Tokyo. We didn't order any dessert, which may have been a mistake because the dessert items did look pretty great. I think a dessert is more in line with the Katamari aesthetic since you can be more colorful and stack a bunch of stuff on top of each other, like a pink heart waffle on blue ice cream. There was a jelly parfait, ice cream pancakes. Again, I did see some people next to me order them, and like the rainbow pasta, the pictures don't disappoint. I did get a drink though, a vanilla milkshake with a little standee of Daisy, the cow-patterned cousin. All the other drinks were also based on the cousins. And yeah, of course, there was a green melon soda float with the prince standee, but they got a little bit crazy with some of them, and they shaped the glass kind of to resemble the cousin. Like the grape sherbet drink is basically in a beaker because the cousin is also kind of shaped like that. And there's an amazake drink in a tall glass and a chocolate coffee milk in a miso bowl because the cousin's head is shaped like the miso bowl. The milkshake I had was sadly in kind of a normal round glass, but it was very, very good. But again, it's something that's like 95% ice and you drink it way faster than you think you would. Outside of the cafe is a small shop selling items themed after the cafe collaboration. And believe it or not, these are available to everyone. So you don't need a cafe reservation to access the shop, like with the Kirby Cafe or the Pokemon Cafe. So if you don't care about eating and just want some merch, nothing's stopping you from picking some up. Recently in Japan, Bandai Namco has made a huge push when it comes to Katamari merch. There's plushies, keychains, shirts, and with this cafe collab and a new game on the horizon, it really does seem that Namco wants to make Katamari big again. Some of the stuff in the shop was on sale elsewhere, but there was a lot of collaboration-specific items, like stationery, stickers, and even some colorful Konpeito candy themed after the king. There are also these name stickers where you type in your name into a machine, and it prints out some stickers with special designs, with your name on it. So if you want something really unique, you can nab a sticker of your name with the Chef Prince design on it. So that was the Katamari Damacy Collaboration Cafe. I had a fun time, but I feel like it could have been better. The best thing was easily the look of the food. It is quite surreal to see it in real life. They completely nailed the aesthetic and photogenicness. Is that a word? The taste, better than I expected, but again, the portions weren't that big at all. The design of the cafe is what you would expect, and there are some nice touches like the cousin tables, but it did feel a bit sparse, and the music should have been more prevalent in the cafe. Something like the Kirby Cafe is on another level compared to this, and even the pop-up Dragon Quest Cafe from last year was much better. All the merch is pretty great, and if you're looking to pick up some Katamari goods, you won't be disappointed. I'm trying to think about if there is another gaming collaboration at this same place, at Tokyo Parade, would I go? Am I just one and done with Tokyo Parade? It would really have to be a franchise I'm invested in. I mean, if there's a Pikmin Cafe, I gotta go. But if it was, say, Mega Man, a series I like, but I'm not obsessive about, would I just skip the Mega Man Cafe here? I think I would be fine skipping the meal, but still checking out the merch store. So in short, it was a fun experience, but Tokyo Parade would need a little bit more juice to get me to come back. Alright, that's it for the feature, so let's check out some news. Hey, and speaking of Parco, they're in the news because they are now a games publisher. Yes, they've gone from department store to publisher. They're launching Parco Games, which will publish 3 upcoming titles, Antarctic Project, which is a survival game, the 2D action game Constance, and the adventure game called The Berlin Apartment. They will also be appearing at Tokyo Game Show as a publisher. What's funny is that even though I've been following the Parco Games account on social media for a while, because they often post news and info about upcoming gaming collabs at their department stores, now that account is for the publisher, so that is kind of weird. 2 of the games, The Berlin Apartment and Constance, seem to be developed by European dev called BTF Games, so Parco doesn't seem to be like it's solely going to focus on Japanese games. which is kind of a shame because I would love to see them focus on bringing Japanese titles overseas or helping bring Japanese indie projects to life. I do feel like it's harder for a Japanese indie title to really hit it big worldwide for whatever reason. When you think about the big indie titles, you think about Balatro and Stardew Valley and Hades and Hollow Knight, but what is the Japanese equivalent? Even stuff like Exit 8 and Urban Myth Dissolution Center, which are huge hits in Japan, they don't seem to make a whole lot of waves overseas. So hopefully Parco can use all the money I gave them from shopping at their stores to bring attention to a lot of under-the-radar games, or take Japanese hits and make them worldwide hits. Chibi Robo is back, this time on NSO, and this is the first ever re-release of the game. I don't want to say this is basically a brand new Switch 2 release, but it is kind of. Like, imagine if they remastered Chibi Robo exclusively for Switch 2 and sold it for $30. Would that not count as a fairly notable Nintendo first-party release? Well, this game isn't remastered, but it is playable on Switch 2, and I think a lot of people, including myself, are going to check it out for the first time. In fact, I've been playing a little bit of it, and will it be the focus of a future podcast episode? Maybe. I am more interested in the expanded Love to Leap universe after playing Moon, so I need to cover all the games, I guess. And another Switch 2 exclusive release, Drag and Drive. It came out. I didn't pick it up, but I did play some of the global jam, so I wanted to share a few of my thoughts on the game, and also get into who developed the game. I was never excited for this game, and I kind of thought it was a baffling route for Nintendo to take, but after playing it, I will say the controls work as advertised. They are incredibly responsive, and the control scheme as a whole is very well thought out, like being able to grab a wheel to make really sharp turns. Some of the gameplay features are also pretty clever, like having decimal points for the score. So you can win a game 6.4 to 6.0, because even though you made the same number of baskets, well, you did it in a cooler fashion than your opponent did, so you win. And the game does feel faster than it looked in the trailers. But to be honest, I played a few rounds and I had my fill. The skill ceiling and floor seem to be very high, and I'm not going to dedicate my physical and mental power to getting good at the game. But it is a more interesting game than I originally thought, and the dual mouse controls do work. Even though the game is not for me, it does make me convinced that dual mouse controls in some other capacity would work very well. Maybe not as a whole game, but as an aspect of another game. And yes, now that it's out, we know the developers. Now, I did assume that Nintendo was not making this game, and it was actually some Western dev like Snipperclips or The Stretchers, and Nintendo was just publishing it. But nope, it is Nintendo EPD, but which team? Turns out it's not a traditionally developed title done by a single team, like EPD4 or EPD10 isn't the dev team. Instead, it's a staff mixed of people from different teams across Nintendo. And it's an incredibly small project, with the EPD staff being less than 20 people. Of course, there's likely a lot of uncredited outsourcing. Some people behind the game include director Yoshinori Konishi, who worked on Mario Kart 7 and 8. Programming was overseen by Hiroki Hamaue, who worked on Switch Sports. Music is from Sayoko Doi of Animal Crossing and Mario Wonder fame. And the most surprising credit, the producer is Hisashi Nogami, who is best known for Animal Crossing and Splatoon. He kind of has a higher level producer role these days, like he's not in EPD5 anymore, but even so, it is surprising to see him involved with this game in any way. So we've got folks from EPD4, EPD5, EPD9, and so on. It really does seem like an experimental title. Maybe not a passion project, but I can see a few devs wanting to do something with the dual mouse controls, and then they made this game. The game didn't get stellar reviews, and yeah, even I didn't buy it, but I do like that Nintendo every now and then is willing to work on these weird experimental titles. Kind of similar to Welcome Tour, but that is almost its own distinct thing entirely. I know we are waiting for the big franchises, we are waiting for Mario and Zelda and Animal Crossing, but weird stuff like this is always nice to see early on in a console's lifespan. But speaking of big franchises, Kirby. We got an out-of-nowhere direct hosted by Masahiro Sakurai solely focusing on Kirby Air Riders. It comes out November 20th, so it is positioned in a great holiday slot. And it does look like Kirby Air Riders. It feels like more of a refinement of the original game than a complete overhaul. One question I had was, why did Sakurai want to make this after so many years? What is he cooking up? What crazy idea does he have? Well, it turns out that Nintendo and HAL basically just asked him to make the game and he said, okay. Alright, not exactly the most exciting backstory for the project, but the game itself does look exciting. It looks incredibly simple on the surface, but the Direct showed off a lot of ways to customize your racing style and how to reach up to that deceptively high skill ceiling. Some of the machines control wildly different from each other, and the characters' special abilities make them far more diverse than the Mario Kart cast, for example. And yes, City Trial is back. This is the main event for a lot of people, basically an open area where you explore with other racers and you try to build up your stats to give you the edge in a minigame at the end of the countdown. If you've ever played Smash Run on 3DS, this is that mode's granddaddy. There are some new events, some new things to explore in the city, and so forth and so on. Again, it's hard to kind of go over all the changes because the game in general keeps the core fundamentals of the GameCube game and just kind of builds upon them. Despite Sakurai talking for 45 straight minutes, it is very clear that not everything was revealed at this direct, and in fact, the last image was a tease of a new Dark Matter-esque character. So, are we getting a story mode? Maybe. The main menu did have some gaps in it, and we definitely don't have all the racers, so expect a classic dojo-esque drip feed of new content for the next 3 months. I'm looking forward to the game, but I do think it's kind of a hard sell for the uninitiated, especially at $70. They really need to show off that, okay, this game has a lot to do. I don't know if just play City Run over and over again is going to cut it, even though that mode is a ton of fun. I want to see more modes. I want to see unique online features. I want to see unlockables. I know we got Starman, but let's throw in some other great Kirby characters in there as well. Add Rick and his girlfriend Pick, please. But there's still plenty of time to reveal this info, and hey, there's going to be a full-blooded General Direct, maybe before my next episode. They are really pumping these things out. And I'll be sure to talk about it when it happens, so hopefully we'll get a full picture of Nintendo's holiday very, very soon. But in the meantime, that's all for now. Thanks as always for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe to this podcast on your favorite app. Leave a 5-star review as well, it really helps. This podcast is also available on YouTube, so like and subscribe there as well. I'm on Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, Instagram. Just search for Tokyo Game Life or find the links in the podcast description. If you like the podcast, be sure to share it with your friends and on social media. The next episode will be on September 7th, and that will be episode 100. Wow. See you next time. Matane.